class. I am Igor, Professor Agar's able assistant. He usually keeps me in the background so you don't see me too often. But tonight we have a very special demonstration lecture. You've heard of the splitting of the atom? You've heard of a split personality? Well, tonight's lecture is all about splitting development. Oh, it's very, very scary. Professor Agar is heading to the classroom, and he will meet with you shortly to describe the intricacies of this development. And we will be back soon.
Kids, welcome to class. I must ask Igor to do something about the plumbing. It's so noisy. In our previous Gorilla lectures, we discussed using various developers, including D76, HC110, Rodendal, and these developers were complete in their ingredients. So very convenient for you. All you had to do was mix the developer and use it appropriately. Now, tonight, if we look at the contents of those developers, they consist of 3 or 4 basic ingredients. One is an actual developer, and that for tonight is menthol. Second ingredient, and that actually develops the film. Second ingredient is a preservative. And for my demonstration tonight, we will use sodium sulfite. Third ingredient, very important, is an accelerator to move the process along in an expedient fashion. And for tonight, we're using sodium metaborate. This is as fast as I can write. Another ingredient that is often found, a fourth ingredient, is potassium bromide, and this is actually a restrainer. I'll just write down restrainer because there's a number of different chemicals that can be used. So menthol is not the only developer that there's others. And sodium sulfide is not the only preservative. There are others. And sodium metaborate is not the only one. There you can get Codal, you can get, which they don't make anymore, you can get anything like borax, anything that's going to raise the pH value. And this will accelerate the actual development. So why do this? Well, this is very interesting. At least I think so. The combination of all those ingredients that I just showed you enacted an actual developer called D23. It's very similar to D76, only a little softer. Ansel Adams used it. Eastman Kodak had a can of it you could buy, and you just pour it in, mix it up, just like the other developers that we have today. But Ansel Adams used a 8x10 view camera. He also realized that there are times where he wanted to have less contrast. He could underdevelop his film, but in the late 30s, we see, because of the increased use of 35mm cameras, the Leica being the first and most famous, that one scientist, an individual named Heinrich Stockler, published in 1939, right before World War II, in a Leica magazine, the idea of dividing the D23 into two different bottles. One would have your developer, and you would have your preservative. And I actually wrote that out. And the other bottle would have the accelerator. Accelerator. Why do this? Well, practitioners of 35mm photography often take pictures in different lighting contrasts. Some very bright, some very contrasty, and they cannot develop each image according to what contrast they want. So what Heinrich Sokler did is he found a wonderful way through the divided development or split development to develop all films about the same time by dividing the development. In the first bottle, your developer and preservative start the action of development. The emulsion soaks up the developer, but actual little development does not take place. It's simply there. And after a routine time, about 6 minutes, could be a little more, could be a little less, depending on you and how you develop your film, the type of film, but about 6 minutes, you then pour it out and then pour in your accelerator. The accelerator, with its high pH value, rapidly continues and completes the development. And what you have, in the end, is good tonality for your shadows and midtones, but suppressed highlights so that they don't get too overwhelming, giving you problems in the dark room. So what do you need to mix split D23? Well, you're going to need a thermometer. And a thermometer will indicate if the water that you're using, either tap water or water heated up with your teapot, is 125 degrees Fahrenheit or 52 degrees Celsius. Thermometer. The other thing you're going to need are the chemicals. And we have here the metol. We have here sodium sulfite preservative. And I have here the sodium metaborate. This is your activator, or moves it along. This is your developer, and the sodium sulfite is your preservative. Now you can't go to Walgreens to get this, so you're going to have to do it probably mail order, and I would suggest Photographer's Formulary out in Montana. And here's their address. So for these 3 chemicals, including shipping, it's about 50 bucks. But you'll be able to develop many rolls of film with this for a long time. Not only will this mix up many developments, but it lasts a long time too, because it's split. The other thing that you're going to need is a way of mixing your chemicals into hot water. Just a regular 32-ounce kitchen glass container will be fine. This one's made out of metal for the dark room. The other thing you will need is a funnel to make the pouring of the solutions into your bottles more easily. Otherwise it goes all over the place. The other thing you're going to need is dark or amber bottles made out of glass or plastic to store your chemicals. And as you can see, I have labeled these, which is very important to label. Otherwise, mistakes can occur. Plastic is probably easier to find at photo stores. I like glass. Now, I also have a scale to mix out the dry chemicals. A nice old scale here that I got from my father years ago. And I have little weights here. So here's 100 grams, which is what you need for a 32-ounce bottle of your solution A. If I put it on the scale like that, you see it's quite heavy. And then I will be pouring the sodium sulfite onto the scale so that it achieves a balance. Now, the only problem with this is that many of you don't have scales, nor do you have little weights like this. You can go online and get a digital kitchen scale, and they're small, and they will be able to handle all these weight sizes in grams. It's 15 bucks, I mean you can do that, but I have taken the time to actually measure out the dry solutions using common tablespoons, teaspoons for your ease of buying the chemicals and then mixing them up. As you can see, the weight of your metol is 7.5 grams or 2.5 teaspoons. The sodium sulfite is 100 grams or 5 tablespoons. And in bottle B, your sodium metaborate is 10 grams or 2.5 teaspoons. Now in mixing it, I would do it this way. I have in here a little Tupperware, and in it I have coffee filters. I thought I had 2 here. I do have 2. So I'll put a coffee filter here, coffee filter here, and it should be about, yep, it's balanced. It's balanced. Now, I'm doing this for you, but you'll just have to trust me that this is how it would work. So with the sodium sulfite here, which is the heaviest, I could put 100 grams here like this, and then I would pour my sodium sulfite into this until it's even like this. Then I would simply take the sodium sulfite, put it into a little plastic bag, and of course I'd have to mark the plastic bag sodium sulfite, and then later I can actually mix this up. Now since you don't have a scale, the simplest way to do it would be, we'll just take the scale away, put it back on the shelf with my other dusty towels. With the sodium sulfite, simplest way to do it would be to take a little coffee. You know, you could use anything to hold on to the chemicals. And I would take my tablespoon, here's my tablespoon measurement, open it up, and I would proceed to take out 5 tablespoons. Once I've done that, I would just take this, put it in a plastic bag, mark it, and we're ready for putting it into our water. Now the easiest way, I think, to mix our chemicals is to fill up your graduate with 16 ounces of hot water. Pour in the metol first, that has to go in first. Stir it until it's all dissolved. Then pour in the sodium sulfite. Stir it up until it's all dissolved. And then fill your container with 16 ounces of just regular cold water, tap water. That way it'll cool down quickly. Then you're ready to pour it into your bottle using your funnel. And the same thing with your second bottle B. The product I have is sodium metaborate and 16 ounces of hot water. Pour in the sodium metaborate, stir it up till it's all dissolved, goes very quickly, and then pour in cold water, make 32 ounces or 1 liter, and then pour that in to save it. Oh! I hear the school bell ringing. That's time for me to go for my next class. So we have 2 bells. First bell is a warning. Second bell, we lock the doors. If the students aren't in, they can't get in. And then Igor, my assistant, often will walk up and down the hallways and persuade the students that have been tardy to come down and help feed the animals. So my attendance to my class is very high. The class I'm teaching actually is popular with students. It's called the Fun and Profit with Mummified Bat Wings, and many tasty leftovers that Igor likes to use for feeding the animals. So Igor will take it away, and good luck with your split D23.
Igor, do this. Igor, do that. I don't know why I put up with it. Professor Agar is always asking me to do things. You know, if it wasn't for the health benefits, I'd go find a job at a funeral home. But Professor Agar has very kindly weighed out the dry measurements for our experiment, and he put them in convenient little baggies. We can keep them fresh, like we do with other body parts. So, for solution A, we have our metol. That is our developer. We also have our sodium sulfite. Now for these, for the metol, we have 7.5 grams. You don't have a scale? 2.5 teaspoons would give you the same equivalent amount. And for the sodium sulfite, we have 100 grams, which is 5 tablespoons if you just use kitchen utensils. And now for the sodium metaborate, we have 10 grams or 2.5 teaspoons. But wait, where is the bag? Ah, do leave her. Professor Agar has forgotten it again. You know, when you get to be his age, they forget. But I'll ask my assistant, Cassandra, who helps me in the dark. Cassandra, wake up, come forth. Cassandra, what a magnificent specter she is. You know, after her evening transfusion, she doesn't look a day over 200 years old. She is as fleet of foot as she is of wing. And she teaches a very successful class out here in Northampton as an adjunct professor. She teaches seasonal decorations with mummified bat wings. Students love the class, and they love the little snacks afterwards too, from the leftovers. So now, with the sodium metaborate, we are ready to conduct our experiment and mix our solution A, solution B for our split D23. So I have here in this graduate hot water, 125 degrees. I'll pour in 16 ounces because the amounts I've given you, Professor Agar made up, is for 1 liter, or 32 ounces. So we pour in 125 degrees of water, measure the temperature. Perfect. Now, open up my baggie of Metol, which has already been carefully weighed out on a scale, or using your kitchen household utensils, and we'll simply pour the solution in, the dry chemicals, and I'll use the coffee filters for tomorrow's brew, and then we stir. The color is slightly amber. That's a little like tea. Keep stirring until all the molecules are dissolved. Now we're ready for sodium sulfate. This is our preservative. And we have 100 grams here. And we simply pour this in. And yes, it does look like salt, but it's not. I'll save this too. It comes in handy. And now we stir this in. Now the color changes from a slight amber to more of a clear liquid. Now with this all stirred up, everything dissolved, we pour in cold water to make it closer to, instead of 125 degrees, closer to 60 or 70 degrees. You'll still need to cool down. Pour this in like so. And now we have 32 ounces, or 1 liter. We can still stir a little bit. And now I'm ready to take my funnel and to pour it into my empty container, which is marked D23A. I'm ready to do that. I'll set that aside, let it cool down just a little bit, and we'll do that a bit later. Now, we're ready for solution B. So I'll take my graduate, pour in my hot water, gives me 16 ounces of hot water, ready for my sodium metaborate. You could also use codal, you could also use borax. It's all the same thing. It's an accelerator. Brings the action of the development to fruition, full fruition. Pour this in, like so. Very good. And more coffee filters for me. Stir it so that it's all dissolved. There. Delicious. And now we pour in our cold water. Bring it from 125 degrees down to 70 degrees or so. Let it get to 68. Now I'm ready to take this and pour it into my label bottle. You gotta label these bottles. I said codal, but it's part D. Just say part D, or you could say sodium metaborate. And now we're ready. Once these chemicals have reached room temperature, you are ready to develop. After loading your film, and our experiments were with Tri-X film, after loading your film, putting it into the canister, as we've discussed previously in previous lectures, then what you do is you would simply pour in your first solution. Once you pour it in, you agitate for the first 30 seconds, and then you put it down. And then you wait 20 seconds, and you agitate for the final 10 seconds out of that first minute. And second minute, just let it sit for 50 seconds, agitate out of the final 10 seconds. You do this for 6 minutes. And then you pour out your developer, D23, back into the bottle, Use a funnel, make sure it has been rinsed and clean. Then you pour your solution B. And B is simply you pour it in, give it just a little shake, not much, put it down. Wait a minute, another little shake, little inversion, put it down. Another little shake for the third minute, 3 minutes total, and then you're done. So this is like a universal developer. 6 minutes for films, all of them 3 minutes for your solution B. This will give you a softer negative, then very easy to print. You might need a 2.5 or possibly a 3 filter, as shown in these examples that Professor Agar did.
Now, here are some examples of a proof sheet and some prints made with split D23. Remember, the film was developed 6 minutes for bottle A and 3 minutes in bottle B, okay?
Oh, but wait, I hear Professor Agar's pets howling in the subterranean vaults. I think they need some food. It's time for their feeding. That's another thing Igor has to do every day, maybe 3 times a day. And you know, I've been so busy, I forgot to get anyone to feed them to. So, I'll go to the lab. Sometimes I find parts in there and I can feed the animals. Class, I think we're done for today. Until next time, if you still have fingers, please keep in touch. Cassandra, Professor Agar has forgotten auf Wiedersehen. Cut!
Not me.